You might want to put down your water for this one. Welcome to AI in 5, where we discuss key AI developments in 5 minutes or less. Today we are discussing a new report published by the University of California Irvine. Okay, let's unpack this. This report, a collaboration between UC Riverside and Caltech researchers, really dives into the massive amounts of water needed for evaporative cooling in these new warehouse-sized AI data centers.
Yeah, and when you look at the sheer thermal output of modern GPUs compared to, traditional compute loads, you immediately realize why these facilities are suddenly so incredibly thirsty.
Right, and that thermal density brings us to the real issue here.
Exactly. The researchers make a really critical distinction in this report. The true bottleneck isn't the annual water usage you usually see published in corporate sustainability reports.
Because those numbers look completely manageable.
Right. They smooth it all out. The actual danger is the peak demand on the absolute hottest days of summer. Daily water demand for these cooling systems doesn't just bump up slightly. It can spike 6 to 10 times higher than the average. And for some planned facilities, we're looking at spikes exceeding 30 times normal usage.
30 times. And when you extrapolate those spikes out over the next 4 years, the report projects an additional peak daily water capacity demand of 697 million to 1.45 billion gallons. You're effectively looking at building a second New York City water grid just to keep server racks from melting down. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The cost.
Yeah, building that secondary capacity requires municipal utilities to construct massive treatment plants, storage reservoirs, pipelines.
Just for those summer spikes.
Right, designed solely to handle that temporary load. Which brings us to a harsh financial reality. The estimated cost for that new infrastructure sits somewhere between $10 billion and $58 billion.
So the immediate question is who is actually paying for that? Because just this past February, 3 major tech companies secured multi-million-gallon daily water rights in Virginia, Louisiana, and Indiana.
But handing over cash for water rights doesn't magically create water.
Exactly.
As the report starkly warns, money can't buy more snowpack. You can build all the pipes you want, but you simply cannot manufacture the natural water supply when the reservoirs run dry.
And because these extreme peak capacities are rarely utilized year-round, local governments are left managing and financing this oversized infrastructure.
Which puts immense financial strain on already aging public water systems. It basically creates a scenario where your local ratepayers could easily end up footing the bill for infrastructure built almost exclusively for temporary data center loads.
So what does this all mean? How does the report actually suggest fixing this?
Well, the first recommendation targets the reporting metrics themselves. Developers need to be required to report peak usage rather than hiding behind those yearly averages.
Right, because using an annual average is a massive loophole. The low winter usage completely masks those dangerous summer spikes that actually break the municipal system.
Transparency is the crucial first step. The second recommendation is that tech companies should partner with communities to directly fund these local water upgrades so ratepayers aren't burdened.
But partnering sounds great on paper. What's the actual incentive for these tech giants to voluntarily hand over billions when they can just leverage existing municipal systems?
That is the friction point. The incentive only really materializes if local governments start denying permits based on water scarcity.
Forcing them to either pay up or build somewhere else.
Exactly, which leads into their third proposed solution, dynamic cooling. This involves using water-based evaporative cooling when the power grid is stressed, but switching to dry cooling when the local water system is stressed.
But dry cooling, which is basically like a giant home AC, is highly energy intensive and incredibly expensive to run. That cuts directly into their operational bottom line.
Which explains why they haven't adopted it universally yet. It's essentially shifting the burden from the water pipes to the power lines depending on what is struggling the most on any given day. And that leaves us with a fascinating unresolved dilemma. The report assumes you can smoothly toggle between water cooling and electricity-heavy dry cooling based on which utility is stressed. But think about the reality of our infrastructure. What happens to our digital world when a severe summer heat wave pushes both the local power grid and the municipal water supply to their absolute breaking points at the exact same time?
Well, that's a wrap. Thanks, Anita, for sharing this report with us. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us for this episode of AI in 5 on the Global AI Policy News Channel. Until next time.